We're going to pick back up with Genesis uh, and chapter 48. And I'm going to do a brief recap because we were talking about the chain of events that happened in the second year of a 7-year famine. Jacob, Joseph's father, and his brothers were in Canaan, and things were pretty bleak economically. Joseph sent for his father and his brothers. They had a heart-to-heart. Pharaoh made Joseph as if it were a type of governor, which is a form of government, which we have a form of government. We have a state government, we have local government, we have federal government. And even back then, by Pharaoh making Joseph manager, so to speak, he managed Pharaoh's holdings. And the governors of the different states manage the budget and everything else for the state. Each state when their quality of life changed when they arrived in Egypt, Pharaoh told Joseph, give your people some of the best that Egypt has to offer. And for a while, there was much rejoicing. Of course, him being reunited with his father and his brothers, they all reconciling, so to speak. And it was a time of great joy, but there were still challenges ahead. And while they enjoyed an increase in the quality of life that they had, tough days came on the horizon. And the people, the Egyptians, came to Joseph, and it was as follows. There was no food anywhere, for the famine was very severe. We're going to get to 48, but I want to set this because this has a lot to do with what we're going through as a country and really what the world is going through. But we're mostly concerned with the United States because we live here. There was no food anywhere, for the famine was very severe, so that both Egypt and Canaan grew weak from hunger. I don't know if some of you are aware, there's legislation trying to be put in place to give another stimulus because inflation is hurting the poor and the middle class. It's really hurting everybody, but those two classes of people are being hurt worse. Now, Joseph, as a manager / governor, this is what he said. This is what he said. Joseph collected all the money there was in Egypt and Canaan in exchange for grain, for the grain they bought, and put the money in Pharaoh's treasury. Now, this proposed check that might be coming, where do you think the funds are coming from to give the to give another stimulus? And I know for some, depending on where you are, what the quality of your life is, that appears on the onset good news. Inflation is affecting us all. And there was a meeting by the Federal Reserve governors, and I asked some time ago, does anybody know who Jerome Powell is? And you need to know who he is. And they've decided not to do anything to adjust the rates up and down, which that's still going to affect us all. And right now, they're not asking us to send in all our money yet, but how many of you have lately looked at your credit card statements about the interest that they're charging? Folks, what I'm trying to convey to you is the very thing that's happening here is happening here. Little different. I mean, we're sitting in air conditioning, you know. And those of us that are here decided to come today, and we're ecstatic that you're here. But in Joseph's day, because there was famine in the land and the people were hungry, they gave up the money. They gave up the substance that they had. Hey, here, you want the money? Give me the money. Give me something. Give me some grain. Give me something to eat. And as governor or / manager, he could do that. Because Pharaoh pretty much had turned everything over to him. Joseph, you handle things. Make no mistake, Pharaoh is in charge, but Joseph is governor. Joseph is handling things. And I'm saying that because right now, some of us would think Washington is handling things. No, the Federal Reserve Chairman is handling things. And I'm not making this a political talk. Plenty of time for that later. But that's part of the famine. That's part of our famine. But we're going to get back to Joseph's famine. Joseph collected all the money there was in Egypt and Canaan in exchange for the grain they bought, and put the money in Pharaoh's treasury. When all the money in Egypt had been spent, and likewise in Canaan, all the Egyptians approached Joseph and said, "Give us something to eat, even though we have no money." Now, I said to you on Wednesday they had another meeting with the Federal Reserve governors. That's what they call them, the Board of Governors, when they all convene and meet. And they decided they're not going to do anything with the interest rate right now. Earlier on in the year, they said they would adjust the rate 3 or 4 times, but Mr. Powell said that the moves that they make them based on what the data shows. What the data shows. So for a person whose quality of life right now is a little tight, they're saying, yes, another stimulus, that's what we need. And again, I'm not making light of anybody's situation. I'm just trying to draw a parallel between what's in the Holy Writ and what we're experiencing today. Our interest on our credit cards are approaching 30% or more. And that's if you've got a good, what they call credit score. When you think about your savings account, what is your bank giving you by way of interest? Because it's your money. When's the last time any of us decided to pay our banker a visit to do an assessment of our checking and savings accounts? Because if you have enough in there, you might can move it to a higher interest-bearing account. See, these are the things we need to be concerning ourselves with, because we're going to need to have a better hold on our financial situation before the end of this year. Before the end of this year. Stay with me. The Egyptians approached Joseph and said, "Give us something to eat, even though we have no money. Why should we die before your eyes?" Joseph replied, "Give me your livestock. If you don't have money, I will give you food in exchange for your livestock." So they brought Joseph their livestock, and Joseph gave them food in exchange for the horses, flocks, cattle, donkeys. All that year, he provided them with food in exchange for all their livestock. Folks, our economy is getting to the point where, for a lot of us that are over 50, we're used to, if you wanted an item, you either save your money or you got terms that you could live with, and there was an end date to what it was you were purchasing. Even in a lease, think about this, even in a lease, if you lease a car, or you lease an apartment, or you lease a house, there's an end date. And at the end of the date on that contract, you either renew or you move on. What's happening in our economy now? Everyone wants you to subscribe. And I ask you, in your subscription, what's your end date? Don't answer, just think about that. Some cars, and I've used this example before, some cars have certain features, and you've bought the car, but certain features, they will not activate unless you subscribe to that service. You own the car. But if you want your heated seats to work, you might have to pay an additional monthly fee even after you've finished paying for the car. If we're not careful, people, we will arrive at a place where you will own nothing, and the leaders will say, and you'll be happy. All of that's in Genesis? Yes, it is. Just there's slight differences. All that year, he provided them with food in exchange for all their livestock. And I'm saying this and I'm laying it out this way because, see, not only is a possible stimulus coming, there's also some legislation trying to be put in place where I think for 60 million people is the first number that's come out, where they, for the next 5 years, they will get about $500 to $600 a month. That's a type of universal basic income. And again, depending on the quality of your life, you go, hey, that's a good thing, man. That's great. But if you notice, when Joseph transacted with the people, he didn't just give stuff away. He didn't just go, hey, the people are hungry. Y'all come on in, just take what you need, leave something for somebody else. And, some of us may have been given that impression that that's the Christian thing to do. But remember now, Joseph was put in charge by Pharaoh. And he trusted Joseph because of his integrity. We all are saying, with things being as crazy as they are now, what do we do? What do we do? How should we be carrying ourselves? Well, as children of the Most High, the best thing we can do is walk out his instructions every day. When you're at the gas station, when you're sitting in church, when you're at the ball game. See, people will be looking for those that are living a life of success. And I'm not talking about your nice clothes and your fancy car. I'm talking about success. When I say success, you're living a quality life and people can see it. Not because you're flexing. You're just living. But you're not just living, existing. You're carrying out his instructions. And one of the first things he says is, be a man, be a woman of your word. Be someone that can be counted on. I've encouraged us all in times, at times I said, and I mean that, it is so important that we have quality people in our lives. Now, our whole life is not going to be filled with quality people, but if you can get a few quality people, it's a little easier. It's still challenging, but you can get through, because then you got a brother or a sister that's going to help you, and that you can turn around and help also. How do I be a good friend? Try practicing reciprocity. And again, I'm not talking about, when I use that word, I'm not talking about a 50-50 relationship. I know that's a hot topic these days, 50-50. No. A relationship that is reciprocal it's like a bicycle thing. It's not you do this much, I do that much. No. It's like drinking a glass of water. And I tell you, with men, I tell you, nothing gladdens a man's heart when he knows he's met a real friend. Yesterday I was watching my vehicles, and somebody pulled up in a car in my driveway, and it was a dear friend of mine that's gone on, his widow stopped by to visit. And it was a good visit, but one thing that we discussed a lot, but she brought up some of the things that we had discussed, and she reminded me of what her husband told her if ever anything happened to him. And she was there to remind me of what I agreed to. But I remembered because it's got nothing to do with me, but all of us need to keep in mind always count the cost before you agree. And I'll say this, and I've said it before, it's never good to agree to do something if you're terribly sad or if you're deliriously happy. Now, something small, yes, but something that could be life-changing. Another thing, being a godparent. That's a real thing. I know most of us church folk, we kind of treat it like another event, because while you probably go buy a new suit, and they get a new dress, and you hold a little bundle of joy while the preacher say a few words, and then you give the baby back to the parents, and you go sit down. And see, some people see it just like that. But no, what you're actually saying, again, if something happens to the parent, you'll, as best you can, step in. See, that's a pretty tall order. I mean, in this country, we would consider that cute. And I'm telling you, with the way this economy is going, we don't have time for cute anymore. The decisions we make, we gotta make them soberly and carefully. I've said before, there's no free lunch, and there is no free lunch. Some of the people that got PPP loans or something like that, when you file your taxes, you had to account for that. Some people were told it was a grant, you don't have to pay it back. Well, government can change laws. Is all of that in here? Yes, it is. I'm going to read a little further. Mm, mm, mm. Mm. Listen at this. When that year was over, they approached Joseph again and said to him, "We won't hide from my Lord that all our money is spent, and the herds of livestock belong to my Lord." They were saying it belonged to you, Joseph, but no, it belonged to Pharaoh. "We have nothing left." Listen to this. "We have nothing left, as my Lord can see, but our bodies and our land. We should die. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we and our land will be enslaved to Pharaoh." I'm not anti-government. I am not anti-government. I realized the Most High could have sent me somewhere else other than the United States. But what I'm about to say to you, government at times has hurt my people, damaging our family unit, perhaps trying to help, but with the help, there was another caveat that further caused division among my people. Folks, there's no free lunch. I'm not saying we're in a 7-year famine, but we're in serious times now. And the closer it gets to November, the more chaotic things are going to get. And I'm going to encourage you, keep your eye on your budget. Keep your eye on your budget. Do some research wherever you have your finances. 36 banks have a problem. I'm not saying they're going under, but I think they stopped at 36. There's certain things that banks have to do to remain solvent. The same go for credit unions. I had an opportunity to update my my accounts, and I was fortunate to get a young lady that she was very helpful, and that's what those people are there for. I know there are tellers there, but some of the VPs, or I don't know what they call them now, but you have the right to go in and ask some questions and ask somebody to do a review of your account with you, and I'm going to encourage you to do that. You need to do that. You need an explanation of why you're paying maybe $15 or $20 a month for a checking account. Ask what services am I getting for this? Now, again, I know that the government has also passed some legislation about these exorbitant overdraft fees on credit cards. And we think the credit cards are ours. The credit card company's customer is the bank, not us. We think it's us. And I know, a lot of you say, well, Barry, you don't know what you're talking about. I got one of these cards, and I get cash back. You know where that cash back comes from? The cash back that they're giving us, and again, I'm not saying yay or nay or what. I mean, what you do, that's your business. The cash back money that we get comes from the people that are struggling, that can barely send in minimum payment. There's no free lunch now, just like there was no free lunch then. Saints, let's wake up. I'm not saying all is lost. I'm not saying gloom and doom. Yes, he's with us, and he'll bring us through. But we may get a few bumps and bruises. Fast food people in California, yes, I'm sure they're happy. $20 an hour. But that's beginning to affect the other industries. But here's the thing again. See, legislation's been passed, $20 an hour. And again, it's honest work, so I'm not saying one way or another. But here's the other side to that. The layoffs are coming. And it's not just going to be in fast food. I'm glad you came, and I hope you're still glad you came. I just want us aware of what's going on. Life as usual is not going to cut it. Listen to this. But also give us seed to plant so that we can stay alive and not die, and so that the land won't become barren. So Joseph acquired all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh. As one by one, the Egyptians sold their fields because the famine weighed on them so severely. All of us remember when, of course, 9/11 happened. And the government stepped in once again. And again, I am not anti-government. I am not anti-America. But I'm just trying to help us see things a little more clearly. Because, for a lot of us, we've kind of been living a fairy tale kind of existence. And Yah's grace has been wonderful. But there'll come a time when he wants his men and women to stand up. Get off the milk. As for the people, he reduced them to serfdom, city by city, from one end of Egypt's territory to the other. Only the priest's land did he not acquire, because the priests were entitled to provisions from Pharaoh, and they ate from what Pharaoh provided them. Therefore, they did not sell their land. See, when things get bad enough in the economy, we willingly start giving up certain rights. You know, I think there was a song, Jody Got Your Girl and Gone, where the government got some of our girls, and they said, hey, I got you. I'm going to give you a place to stay. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you and the kids a stipend. But Barry, I better not catch Barry around. And of course, again, depending on what your quality of life is, and again, please, I'm not belittling anybody's situation, and I'm not making light of anybody's situation. I'm just trying to show how sometimes government works for you, and sometimes it works against you. But I'm not anti-government. The Most High sanctions a form of government. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. So government is not necessarily a bad thing, but it depends on who's holding the office. Which is the same way. See, when Pharaoh, most of us, we hear the word Pharaoh, we think, boo, bad guy. Greg said yesterday in the men's study, which was wonderful, not all pharaohs are bad. Not all kings are bad. Not all leaders are bad. When the leadership is good, the people rejoice. But when it's not so good, we moan. It was that way then, and it's this way now. But again, don't take your eye off of your financial situation. I'm not saying worship your money. I'm not saying that. And see, that's another thing. The dollar's under attack because it may not continue to be the world reserve currency. It may not. I don't know. I know the BRICS nations are making some noise. But I will say this, and you take it with a grain of salt. Their situation is just as jacked up as ours. I've said it before and I'll say it again. America is the least ugly house on the block. But all the houses are ugly. And that's the truth. Then Joseph said to the people, as of today, I have acquired you and your land for Pharaoh. Here is seed for you to sow the land. When harvest time comes, you are to give 20% to Pharaoh, 80% will be yours to keep for seed to plant in the fields, as well as for your food and for that of your households and your little ones. Again, that's good leadership. That's good leadership. He could have said, give Pharaoh 80, you keep 20. They had no choice but to accept it. Why? Because they were hungry. Because all their money was gone. Their livestock was gone. But Barry, what are you saying? I'm saying that's why I'm telling you, keep your eye on your money. Who wrote that song? I got my mind on my money and my money on my mind. Snoop Dogg or somebody? I don't know. I'm see, but y'all probably didn't even know I knew that. I'm joking there, but I'm serious, folks. Watch your spending. Please watch your spending. Because we don't know how things are going to go later on in the year. But items are still expensive. I ain't going to call their name, but not everybody can go to a dealership and walk out with a new car, paid for. But I got in the back of my mind, see, if things get tight, I know who I'm going to call. But see, everybody don't have that. But in doing the things of the Most High, our quality of life can improve even in tough times. But we gotta follow instructions. And again, Barry, you always talking about that. I want to know, what am I to do? I said, first, have some integrity. If you owe somebody, pay them. And if they owe you, and you one of those real nice, sweet people, call them up and in your nicest, sweetest voice, say, Greg, you got my $2. Another key component for us in these days, we're to be not only men and women of integrity. Listen, saints, and I mean this, let us stop living lives of sacrifice. We're supposed to be obedient. Obedient to what? Obedient to the instructions. Yes, we miss. Yes, we miss from time to time. But really repent. Do an about face. Most of us that were here, remember, Teshuvah means about face. That's a marching order. That's a marching order for somebody that's walking out the Torah in their lives, the teachings and instructions. When you miss the mark, do an about face. Don't keep going. So if you have a measure of integrity, and if you really desire to be obedient to the instructions, because properly carrying out the instructions guarantees success, his success. And yes, that does include a few trinkets. But the quality of life is what you're after. But I'm saying this because oftentimes we just get that one part. We always, gimme. Yes, you're going to get stuff, but you're still going to get some challenges along with the stuff. And that's the part we don't seem to understand. Every time a challenge comes, it's not always the devil. Sometimes the one that made you sent that thing. There are many of us in here, we can look back over our lives, and sometimes you're glad that what you thought you had to have, you didn't get. And then there are some of us that we thought we had to have it, and we thought that because I'm a good guy or a good girl and I got it, then when you got it, you didn't want it. King Joseph said to the people, as of today, I have acquired you and your land for Pharaoh. Here is seed for you to sow the land. When harvest time comes, you are to give 20% to Pharaoh. 80% will be yours to keep for seed to plant in the fields, so as well as for your food and for that of your households and your little ones. See, nowadays, with the way here's another thing we've done. And we don't even look at it this way. We have told the Most High, the way you set things up, we ain't doing that no more. I'm going to decide what I am. I'm going to decide what I'm going to do. And I'm going to lobby, and I'm going to get some legislation passed, and you better not open your mouth about it either. We're telling the Most High, I don't like the way you set things up. Why you let them do this? I'm going to do it. I can do it. Folks, I'm going to tell you, when you disregard his order, your life is chaotic. I don't care how many trinkets you got. Truth be told, when you go home and it's just you and you know you got a mess on your hands. Oh, no, when you walk out the door, you got your hair did, you got your nails did, you got your favorite suit on. Guys, too. Chaos. Chaos. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm trying to. Listen. And all of this, all of what we see today, can be tied back to the Garden of Eden. We should always obey rather than have to live a life of sacrifice. All of us know what? Obedience is better than sacrifice. Because sometimes, have you ever stopped to think, maybe he don't like apple pie. You might make the best apple pie in all the world. What if he said, "Bro, I didn't ask you to make me an apple pie"? I just asked you to be a good son, be a good sibling, be a good whatever, and do it under me. But I get along. Oh, okay, well, let me get a little education. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to check this out. I'm going to do this. God will bless it. God will like it. Surely he'll like this. I think I'm pretty good. I'm just using that as an example. I don't really think that. But that's how some of us are. We think we're good at something. And sometimes people will make little snide remarks. And I always say to myself, because sometimes some people you shouldn't say some things to. When you find yourself looking at a situation and you saying, I could do better, then you should ask yourself, if you can do better, why didn't he have you in that situation? The reason he doesn't have you in that situation is because it ain't for you. You don't want to occupy somebody else's seat. And then for somebody to have to come and ask you to move. That is terribly embarrassing. But see, a lot of us, I know some of us have talents. I've got God-given talents. Maybe. That's for him to decide. But most of us, we do the deciding. Just like I said, we've taken it upon our society, and mankind has taken it upon themselves. No, we're going to change some of this stuff up. I don't like this. Well, he didn't ask you. He didn't ask me what I thought about it. He laid it out the way he wanted it laid out. And then we say, well, Barry, it's 2024, so what? What does that mean? Time only matters to us. What did he say? I'm God, I change not. So where did we get what our P brings? We're going to decide we're going to change some stuff up. And I mean the church is in on it too. I'm not anti-government. I'm not anti-church. I am anti-church system. I want that to go on record. Very much so. It has stunted growth in a lot of lives. It has killed a lot of dreams and aspirations for the Most High, not for people's. And it's nothing wrong with having aspirations. But how do they match up with his instructions? Because what is the thing everybody like to say? Only what you do for Christ will last. Well, how many of us are living lives for ourselves? I can remember a lot of times Pastor used to say when we were in staff meeting, and sometimes the atmosphere was, well, I'm busy. I got a family. I got this. I got that. I got this. And he would sit there and he'd let us all give our excuses and make statements. And then he would just sit there, like you know how he was. And then he would say, well, yeah, you do all of that, but you're doing that for yourself. And then everybody get that little silly look on their face because they realize, yeah, he's right. I want to show you something, and then I'm going to close. I see I don't have but 4 minutes. Joseph, when he cut the deal, he said, today, give 20% to Pharaoh. 80% will be yours. You can use it for food, plant in the fields, use it for food, for the of your household and the little ones. See, he realized, and this is what I'm hoping. I'm hopeful that the business minds in our community, listen, if they lay off most of us and they take our Social Security and they mess up our pension, you find out your pension ain't worth a plug nickel. You find out the insurance policies you got, those were old dollars. And here's another thing. Future dollars have less value. Remember that. Folks, please check on your situation, your insurance policies, your banking, your mortgage situation, any leases, contracts you've signed, your credit card. Look that stuff over. What Joseph did, he gave the people a fighting chance. He said it so that they could take care of themselves. And we're hoping the government does the same thing. And the point I was going to make, and then I'm going to close because I still got 2 minutes. See, if all of us lose our jobs, but all of us ain't going to lose our jobs, but if most of us lose our jobs or our companies go under, whatever, and even with AI, who they going to sell all these products to? See, yes, China's a major manufacturer, but if all of us are laid off or living on a budget and don't have them, they just stuck with a bunch of stuff. And for the companies here, same thing. You can't, I'm hoping that these so-called bright people realize we can't hurt everybody. Who's going to buy our product? Who's going to need our service? Restaurants are closing down. And, you know, I clean a couple of restaurants. And so I'm watching that stuff all the time. See, so what I'm saying is all of this stuff affects you, whether you realize it or not. If you're in business for yourself, it's still, listen, if everybody lose their job or most people lose their job, who needs your service? Who needs your product? I never thought about it that way. It's time to start thinking that way. And stop thinking, well, you know, I'm a nice person and I love everybody and all of that's good. But that's not going to help you for the days that's coming ahead. Come on now, we gotta, come on. We gotta get with it, folks. And yes, he's still with us. God bless you.